So everybody is benefiting from AI, people who are in the know. And now, if the public wants to know the truth, they need to embrace AI as well, so that they don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
So, welcome to the True Man podcast. Now, there are so many reasons why I began the podcast, and I think today's interview represents that in many ways. I get to be curious. I get to talk with people from around the globe. I get to hear comeback stories and turnarounds, and I get to hear how people have pivoted in their life to achieve success. Now, today, I think we get to hear of all the aforementioned reasons as that I began this podcast. So, welcome to the True Man podcast. Manuj Aggarwal. Manuj is a rags to riches story about working in a factory at the age of 15 for up to 12 hours a day to working with presidents and CEOs like Bill Gates. He's a thought leader in the AI and cybersecurity arena, a keynote speaker, and a man that knows how to break through for success. Manuj, welcome to the True Man podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. The name is actually Manuj, so just
Manuj,
yeah, yeah.
anybody that listens to my podcast on a regular basis knows I
I
mispronounce
can
names all the time.
I totally understand it. No worries.
Manuj, you have quite a story. So tell us about how do you go from working in a factory making $2 an hour to working with and training some of the most successful people in the world?
Yeah. So, well, what happened was, I grew up in a small town. At age 15, I started working in the factory, and it was hard life. And going through that life, I said to myself, life cannot be just slaving away in this factory for 12 hours a day. It's got to be more than that. And I was looking for some ways out. Okay, what could it be? How can I change my life? And I got some inspiration from some business magazines. One day I was just going through some business magazines at lunch hour, and I was reading these stories of these tycoons who had made empires starting from nothing. And so I thought to myself, if these people can do it, I should be able to do it. I mean, they are human beings as well. But at that time, of course, there was such a big gap between my understanding of where I was and who these people were. But anyway, I mean, so that's shifted something in my mind at that moment. And I started searching for um, an avenue, a way to create more value and to elevate my life. And during that search, that quest, I found my love and passion for computers and programming. So this was around 1995 or so, and I just knew that programming and technology is what I was going to do for the rest of my life, whether it paid off or not. So I think the timing was very good, and my passion for doing something that I would have done anyways was a huge factor. And so combination of the technology wave was just coming up, the internet was just sort of becoming
Yep.
more popular,
Yep.
dot-com boom was happening.
Yep.
So all of these things have helped tremendously. But then a few other things that helped me also was that I always try to put myself in an uncomfortable position by learning something new. So meaning, even if I'm doing well at something, I say, okay, what is the latest technology I can use to solve this problem? What can I learn new that is something that is not within my knowledge right now, but other people are using it. So I've always sort of stayed on the cutting edge of technology. It's very similar to how people in the legal profession or medical profession, they have to continuously update their
Right.
knowledge,
Yep.
otherwise they will get left behind. So it's the same thing. And the third thing that I focused on was whatever work we do as a company or as an individual, I try to focus on how it is going to help other people, how it will help or impact large number of people in improving their lives or their livelihoods or what have you. So example being, We have done a lot of work in education, so building technology for education, people getting
Yeah.
better education, better degrees, better knowledge, and then subsequently better jobs and better life. We have done a lot of work in healthcare, helping people fix their joint pains, or helping people who have cancer to go through their difficult journey. So all of these things, technology is what we build, but the result is the improvement in somebody's life. So that's the satisfaction you get. And then when you combine all of these things, whether you are successful or not, there is another measure of success that you can adopt for yourself, which is how many people have you helped, how many
Yeah.
lives have you improved, right?
That's awesome. And I got to ask you, so does that does that desire to help improve people's lives, does that really come from how you started out?
It's very much so. I think when you go through pain in your life, you become empathetic towards other people's pains. um,
Mm.
whether whether it's the magnitude of pain is like high, low, whatever it is. But I think difficulty in life, any I mean, everybody has challenges in their life. and when and when you overcome those challenges and you come out stronger on the other end, when you see another person trying to overcome the same challenge, you can't help but feel empathy towards them and say, hey, I was there. If only somebody had helped me, I would have been further along. So looking at it from that point of view, yeah, I mean, that desire to help other people comes from your own experience
Yeah.
as you went through life. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? You said this and it hit me because I was just giving a talk here a while back and I used the term uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I said, does it make you feel uncomfortable to do this? And we were talking about it and you brought it up when you were talking. And I was using it in a similar way you did. In other words, does it make you uncomfortable to the point where you have to stretch yourself?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
A-
exactly.
And so I love the fact that you brought that up. So where does that come from? I mean, was this something that you just innately said, if I'm going to grow, I got to be uncomfortable? Or where does that come from exactly?
You know, I think there are several answers to that. One is, of course, I will share this, but many people may or may not relate to it. When you grow up in a very challenging, very very highly competitive environment in a
Mm,
in a third world country, you just become innately competitive. Like, I mean, even the basic survival is about competition. Like, think about getting basics like drinking water or food or clothing or shelter. I mean, even that is highly competitive because there's so many people, like 1.3 billion people competing for limited resources, right?
yeah.
The second thing is that the funny thing happens is when you overcome one big challenge that you thought was impossible. For example, for me at age 15, working in a factory, uh, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I used to dream about, hey, what will it be like to step a foot outside of my city, outside of my state? It'll be a new world. I'll experience new things. And here I am, on the opposite side of the world, traveling the world and everything. So when you think about, oh, okay, if I make a little bit of effort and I don't give in, I can achieve so much more than
Mm,
what I had dreamed of. So if I just don't put any boundaries, and I know I'm going to be uncomfortable, but if I you know uh, just roll up my sleeves and sort of take on a new challenge, what kind of new surprises life can bring me? Like, how much
yeah.
more amazing life can get. Because frankly, I have big dreams, but what I have seen is, when you make the effort and you stay consistent, life gives you 100 times more than what you even are capable of dreaming for yourself, right?
Boy, truer words have never been spoken right there. You know what's interesting, Manug? I hear you talking. you're present, it's positive, it's very light. I have not heard you. I know we just started talking, but I'm not even getting an indicator that there was this fear of failing.
Yeah.
It was more like, well, that's just another challenge. I'm going to push forward. Does When you're in a competitive environment, you're trying to get out, like you're describing, where does failure come into play for you? What role does that play?
So a couple of things, right? One is, of course, everybody's afraid of failure. I'm afraid of failure, but the idea behind that is you do it anyway. You say, okay, let's figure out what will be, and then you say, what is the worst case scenario? What can happen? Like the ultimate worst case scenario is I'll die. I'll die trying. But who doesn't die? Like, is there anybody who doesn't die? Uh, everybody dies.
It's inescapable, right?
Exactly. So might as well die trying the things that you really love doing. You will expand, right? The second thing I learned earlier on was any challenge is an opportunity in disguise, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So and
certainly.
the corollary to that is because it's a cliche to say that, but I challenge people and I say to them, okay, think back on your life and think about every good thing that happened to you. you know I can bet it was immediately preceded by a challenge,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you got the degree, for example, your master's degree, graduate degree, there was a challenge, which was the exam. When you go to the gym, you want to build muscle, there is a challenge, you need to lift heavy weights, right? The heavier the weights, the bigger the muscle. So when you apply these basic principles, you can say, okay, I have a challenge. How big is this challenge? That's such a big challenge. I have never ever done this in my life. But that also means if I overcome this challenge somehow, there's going to be an opportunity that I have never expected in my life. So get excited about the opportunity and then figure out what the challenge is. And that challenge, again, when you hit a failure, it's telling you this is not the right way. And generally, it's like, the old saying, like, try and try hard again until you
Right.
succeed.
Mhm.
the the beautiful thing is when you try and it doesn't succeed, first thing, you are now wiser and stronger because you've got a lesson already learned, right? Your mind has expanded, it's not going to shrink back. Second thing is, you should try and aim higher. If you were trying to, let's say, make $100, you didn't succeed, go for 110 next time, because that's what life is telling you, that now you are stronger. By the way, you can also raise your standards and go for a bigger goal. And you will find it surprising, sometimes as you start to raise your standards, it becomes easier and easier to overcome those challenges.
Man, that's good. So you got all kinds of whys that you're dropping on me today.
Mhm.
Now you've gotten to this point, and I have to say I'm fascinated by this to a large degree. You're considered a global thought leader in the area of AI. Now that's art. For somebody who's listening to this goes, what did he just say? As artificial intelligence. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
How do you become a leader in artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're about to blow my mind, but that's okay. Go ahead.
No, well, so there is a simple answer to this, right? So I started working with artificial intelligence around 2006, 2007. So I've had a few years under my belt to understand this technology.
Right.
um, and I have 4 patents in artificial intelligence, and so that adds to the credibility. And I have worked with corporations like Microsoft and IBM and Pearson Education, worked on multi-million dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of technology. So all that adds credibility, but what it also gives you is is makes you understand the potential of a technology. Like once you are in the
Mm.
trenches, you understand the potential of a technology. And then the other thing that happened was, due to my personal experience, around 2010 2011, I used to be suicidal, I used to be depressed. And that was because of my personal challenges in my relationship with my spouse, with my parents. And so I found relief in meditation. I found relief in understanding psychology and neuroscience. So, and I got really good results from that, and I, overcame my depression and everything. But what I found was how powerful our mind is, our
Mm.
thoughts are. And then the other thing that happened was, as I was learning about artificial intelligence, going deeper into that, and I was learning about the neuroscience of mind, I found a continuum between our mind and artificial intelligence. So it's basically the same thing, just impacting each other, and I can talk about
Yeah,
how they impact it.
talk about that.
Mm,
Yeah, talk about that.
mm. So basically, our mind, the way that we learn, there are billions and billions of neurons in our mind. And what happens is, as we observe the environment around us, they pick up certain data points and say, okay, now I know what the situation is, how to react to it. I've
Yeah,
learned the pattern. So an example could be like, if you touch the hot stove, you immediately know never to do that again.
right.
Your mind is learning that pattern. So AI is learning the pattern in data around us in very, very minute detail, things that we cannot even fathom. So for example, if I ask somebody, hey, can you predict the weather, can you find a cure to cancer, uh, I mean, we are all struggling to find solutions for that. But with AI, you can actually feed it tons and tons of data and say, okay, go and find a solution for me, and it'll find those patterns and give you the answer back, right? Uh, so it's like expanding your mind's cognitive power. The second evidence is, uh, when we look at social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, they have been around since 2005, and they are basically a bunch of AI algorithms, right? And the AI algorithms are now shaping our worldview.
Yeah.
Mm, there are 4 billion people on social media platforms. So out of 8 billion, 4 billion, our thought processes, our worldview, the way that we think, our outlook on life is actually influenced by the information we consume, which is controlled by AI algorithms, right? To the extent that even elections for powerful offices are won and lost based on AI.
Yeah, we've noticed here in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. So, so now you can see how AI impacts our mind, and our mind also impacts AI, because AI is using the data that is produced from our activities, daily activities, to train itself, right? So when you realize all these things, you realize the power of the technology and what it is capable of. Now, my mission in life became to use technology to help people open up their mind,
Yeah.
just like I was able to sort of, open up my mind by going into meditation. But the fact is, when I talk to people about meditation, they say I have no time.
Oh,
So,
I know they do that, but you and I
mm,
both know that's you
yeah,
make the time. You make the time for the things that will push you forward in life.
exactly, exactly. And I tell the same thing. If you don't have time, maybe that is more of a reason for you to meditate. But being humans as we are, most people don't pay attention to that. Then I said, okay, let's try and use AI to help raise people's consciousness, help them,
Mm.
sort of, help them feel meditative effects. And so that became my mission. And and it works beautifully. Like, it actually helps people to open up their mind. But then the next challenge is, a lot of people are focused on how will this technology help me make money, rather than help me feel better. Right?
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's a little bit of the worry here. I hear you talking about how we use technology and AI as a positive,
Hmm.
but there's a dark side to this, isn't there?
Yeah. So the dark side is with every technology. What I was trying to get at is a technology itself is not dark, it's not malicious, it's not nefarious. The human beings who use the technology, they are the ones, uh,
It's
who
hard to
misuse it.
argue that.
Yeah, right. So, so yes, there's gonna be some dark consequences from this technology, but like with any other technology, there are going to be few, let's say 5% of the people who use AI for malicious uses. That will be counterweighted by 95% of the good people using AI for good purposes, right?
Hmm.
So the technology, like every technology, you name it, like a car, I can drive the car to the grocery store or I can use it to run over somebody, right?
It's true. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. How do we overcome this though? I think it's elections. Now, I don't want to get into politics, but there is no question that technology has the ability to influence, I'm going to say, the way we think. And if it
Mhm.
if it gets into the way we think, it can potentially cause us to go vote a way maybe we wouldn't ordinarily vote for. And so, there's a lot of talk here in the United States about, well, how do we have free and fair elections, right? I mean, it used to be just hanging chads on a ballot. Now it's this technology thing. And I think really no matter who wins an election, we want to know that it was done fairly and honestly and but yet this technology thing, it's sailed.
Mhm.
And so how do we have any level of trust that what is happening is the truth?
Yeah. See, the thing is that I again, even I cannot comment deeply about the politics of this, but the technology. See, the first part of political races are the canvassing, about showing up and talking to people and saying, okay, I am the right person to lead you, right?
Yeah.
That's where AI is being used extensively, as you said, to change people's minds. Now, to counter that, people need to be aware of what is happening. They need to embrace AI as a technology rather than be afraid of it, because uh, not just politics, even wealth has been created in the last 2 decades based on AI.
Yeah.
So if you talk about the richest people in the world, Jeff Bezos, Amazon is all AI,
Yep.
right? Elon Musk, Tesla is an AI company, right?
Mhm.
Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook is AI company, right? So everybody is benefiting from AI, people who are in the know. And now, if the public wants to know the truth, they need to embrace AI as well, so that they don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You know,
That's interestingly worded. And I think the challenge is, Manug, we get what we get on the news, and even those aren't trustworthy sources. And so, and I'm the first one to admit, I'm not a technology guy. It's hard for me to keep up. But interestingly enough, even as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, we have to find ways to keep up. And it feels like a huge mountain to climb. So, for somebody who may be listening to this podcast, as people that small business owners and entrepreneurs that don't have the budgets of the Microsofts and the Teslas of the world. How do we utilize this technology for our advantage? Does that make any sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, the what I just said was that so far the rich and powerful have had access to this technology, and
Yeah,
right.
right.
But it all changed in November 2022 with ChatGPT being released, and now the same power and even more power, arguably, is in the hands of everyday people. We can just go and sign up for a free account on ChatGPT and start playing with AI. And here is what I will ask: three things for the listeners to do.
Hmm.
Right. One is use once you are interacting with ChatGPT, because the first step is getting over the fear. The fear comes when you don't know anything. When the thing is unknown.
That's
So
fair. Yep.
when you start using it, the fear subsides because now you are working with it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to interact with it in such a way that this is a super intelligent human being who has a degree in medicine, who has a degree in law, who has a degree in business, has a degree in history, anthropology, what have you. And you want to ask questions. We all have questions. We all want to achieve something in life. How do I get that? How do I do this? What is the solution to that?
Yeah.
Start asking questions to AI, because one of the fundamental things about a successful person is they are really good at asking good questions.
It's 100% true.
You
Yes.
know, we have been taught since our childhood you need to be better at asking answering questions. But the thing is, if you don't have a good question, the answer is not going to be good at all, no matter how intelligent you are, right? So the fundamental skill we should teach ourselves is ask right question. Second thing is that the again, everything that we want to achieve in life, most people fall into the trap of saying, how do I achieve that? So what I have learned in my life is the better question to ask is, who can help me achieve that? Okay, because there is only a limited time and ability of for us to pick up new things, learn new things, and be good at it.
Yeah.
But if we look at the human species as a network of people who come together to achieve great things, then
Right.
you change your mindset and say, okay, I want to build a website. I don't know how to build a website. Who can help me? I need to get sales. Okay, I don't know how to get sales. Who can help me? Now, in order to get buy-in from those people, you need to be really good at telling stories, because and there is a scientific reason for that. Most people again fall into the trap of sharing facts and figures about an opportunity. They can say, hey, come, we'll give you $200,000. You'll make this much money, blah blah blah. Those figures are going to encourage somebody, but it's not going to connect somebody with you. But as we started the podcast, I shared my story. That story, what that does is it helps us connect at a human level. you
Right.
know and then physiologically speaking, stories have a way to impact our mind. It actually helps release certain chemicals in our mind, which help us become more, um, how can I say it, likely to buy into your proposal, like we
Right.
as we connect with each other. um, Handwriting and writing was invented about 7,000 years ago, and before that the humans have been around for 200,000 years. So before writing was invented, every piece of information used to be passed on from generation to generation by storytelling,
Right.
right? So that is ingrained in our mind. So coming back, get better at asking questions, get better at telling stories using AI. You can just say, tell me, like, I went, met a CEO of a company. We had a great chat. These are the terms of the deal. Write me a detailed story of how it went. I mean, The story could be fictitious. It may be 50% incorrect. But that story, when you read it to yourself, you will become so much better at communicating with other people that it will show up in your life actually in real results within 10 days, 15 days.
I gotta say, I'm more fascinated now to peel back that onion, so to speak, of AI, because you're giving me something I did not expect. Okay, in that eh, eh, we're talking about technology. Okay, which, in my mind, I immediately start thinking of smartphones, computers, hardware, software, right? Which, yeah, we're talking about that. But in the same breath, you're talking about storytelling, relationships. And I'm like, whoa. And I'll be honest, I feel like I've missed something by not diving into this a little bit more, because as this podcast is a great example. We created this podcast so that people could come on and really tell their stories of overcoming and perseverance, because one of the challenges men have is we isolate ourselves a lot. And
Yeah,
so in isolation, we do really stupid stuff, but the hearing other men tell their stories of perseverance and overcoming things is incredibly powerful, and it motivates people to move on and inspires them to be better than they were the day before.
yeah,
And so it's fascinating to hear you talking about technology and basically saying, okay, yeah, it's technology, but still it's about relationship and story.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I gotta say, a lot of times what I hear on the news isn't the story I hear, right? Is that fear factor that they always go to. In other words, if I were to flip on the news right now and hear about AI, they're going to be talking about the millions of jobs that are going to be lost because some computer is going to show up on a factory floor. That's what
yeah,
I'm going to hear.
yeah. Well, the thing is that you have to realize that news itself is being controlled by an AI algorithm. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I do. I do believe that.
Yeah, and that AI algorithm is designed and is optimized to make you click and be worried, because that, I mean, that's the way human mind is wired up. Because when we are worried, when we are agitated, we click on ads. We make these people a lot of money, and that's why AI algorithms are optimized that way right now.
I mean, basically, you, you get a master's degree in psychology here, in this neuroscience thing. You've really had to study this, haven't you, in
Yeah.
order to understand technology?
hmm Yeah, exactly. And now, I mean, so these are a few things, as you said, like get started. Then the other thing is, you can, once you start to engage with this, once you start seeing real results in your life. I'm not even talking about learning technology. You will start to see real results in your life as your mind starts to expand.
Yeah.
You will have better relationship with your kids, with your friends, with your spouse, whatever. And then, with what the next step, what happens is light bulbs go off and you say, oh, this is such an intelligent entity. It can help me fix my finances. Maybe, I don't know much about finances. I don't know much about how I should make a 10-year plan for myself. Should my life look like in the next 10 years? What kind of food should I eat based on where I live, my history? What kind of nutrition should I be consuming? So you can start to engage with this AI as if it's a very intimate, a personal sort of a butler, a psychologist, a doctor, all of these things combined, giving you advice and showing you the path all the time. Today, I was experimenting with something. I uploaded my financial statements into ChatGPT, and I said, okay, analyze my credit card statements and tell me where can I save money, what am I doing wrong,
Yeah.
you know. And it gave me, okay, these subscriptions, you should get rid of them. This is something that you should consider. It actually started talking to me as if, I'm talking to a real CFO, right? So, and it's all free, available to you right now. Imagine if you don't use it, your competitor is going to use it, and how will that turn out?
Wow. There's a mic drop moment. Your competitor's using it. You better get on board.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. It's okay. This is fascinating. So obviously one of the first things I'm going to do when you and I are done is go out and check this out. And what I love about it is see, I wouldn't do this because I'd be scared to death. Like, oh my God, I'm feeding this thing my financial statements. You're like, well, this morning I was fooling around and I
yeah.
just put in my financial statements and I get this information back. And there's just there isn't a fiber of fear in your body, is there?
Fear, there is. I don't see the reason to be afraid of a technology. Like, I've lived through Y2K problems. I've lived through, when COVID started, like people were, rushing to get toilet paper. Fear, you know, uh, you know, like it's like toilet paper is gonna run out, in this
Yeah.
whole. So fear is a funny thing. Like, it's just a reaction to the unknown, and generally it's all irrational. So you asked me earlier, aren't you ever afraid? I always feel like when you're afraid, you got to lean into that. I think that is where the most growth happens, right?
I'm learning that myself.
Yeah,
So that's absolutely valid advice.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Manu, as we wrap up today, tell everybody how they can find you, get a hold of you, learn about what you're doing. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. So you can connect with me by going to my connection website. It's manuj.ca, so my first name.ca, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Manuj Aggarwal, or my website is manujaggarwal.com. Yeah, or just Google my name. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll, of course, put all that information in the show notes. Man, I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's completely different than something I would ordinarily talk about it. And I think that's why it was so fun. So thanks
Mhm.
for being on the True Man podcast.
Absolutely. No, I had fun. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.